What's going on, everybody? I'm Max Ralph.
Seth Engle.
Coming at you live from Big Ten Media Days here at Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium, home of the Colts. Got a lot of stuff today. We heard from James Franklin, Sean Clifford, PJ Mustipher, Jair Brown, and AD Pat Kraft. There's a ton to tackle. I think a good starting point is Patrick Kraft. He talked about just about everything today. It really just answered every question. It was pretty impressive. Seth, what were your takeaways from Kraft's avail today?
I'll say there's just a huge difference right off the bat between talking with Pat Kraft and talking with Sandy Barber. No disrespect to her. Pat Kraft is just, all things that are not Penn State. Penn State likes to cover things up but not necessarily, show them to the public. Pat Kraft was pretty open about literally everything. We talked with him about NIL. We also talked with him about, other issues such as Penn State not uncovering certain things, such as Cal Sanderson's contract, which was really interesting. What were some of your main takeaways there?
Yeah, well, the thing with contracts was interesting because a month ago, maybe Cal Sanderson got leaked that he had a new contract, and no one knew about it. Penn State didn't leave a press release. He's the greatest coach in wrestling. Why? Pat Kraft doesn't know either, and that was interesting to hear him say that. Said they're talking about releasing more of that information. The other thing that was really good to me was the honesty he had when it came to Olympic sports, the facilities they need to improve there, Beaver Stadium renovations. He talked a lot about Beaver Stadium renovations. Cool moment to hear him say he got goosebumps when he walked in there the first time, but then he went on to say how much he wants to do there. He wants it to be safe, he wants it to be in use forever. And the really interesting thing to me that he said was he wants them to use it more than 7 days a year, which it's a great venue. Why not make some more money off of it doing something?
Right, and that's been something in discussion too this summer, was why doesn't Beaver Stadium have concerts?
Yeah.
Another thing Pat Kraft brought up was the fact that Penn State has started their conference schedule on the road for 9 straight years.
Mm-hmm.
James Franklin said, I don't know how that's statistically possible. It hasn't even been brought up until Pat Kraft came in, so we think. He said he called the offices and trying to work on that for the future. But, that just seems like an issue that you can't just slip under the rug for 9 straight years.
Yeah.
Once it gets to year 5, I'd have a problem with it. Maybe even sooner than that. But, Pat Kraft was very open. We've talked to him, I think, twice at this point, and he's impressed both times.
Yeah.
Did you like anything from the player avails or James Franklin?
Yeah, well, right before I get into the player avails, Pat Kraft, like you said, great energy, really impressive. And hey, maybe a new Beaver Stadium press box. We'd like to see that. But player avails, the big thing today is PJ Mustipher. He's here today. He was one of the avails today. Obviously had that big knee injury against Iowa last year. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He's going to be 100% in camp when that kicks off on Sunday. Talked about just how hard that whole process was for him, just coming back. He is invaluable to Penn State's team as a whole, not just the defensive line. So it's good to see him back. He had great energy today, and he passed his conditioning test.
They made that very clear.
Yeah, Sean Clifford, Jair Brown, James Franklin, they all said it at least 4 times. PJ Mustipher passed his conditioning test. While we're joking about it, that's really impressive. He had a massive knee injury less than a year ago, and he's back to the speed and the strength that he was at when he was fully healthy. So that's impressive, and he's a huge thing. He's a huge returner for Penn State's defense. How about Jair, James, and Sean?
Yeah, I thought it was all interesting, especially, we haven't even seen them on the field yet, and just how they were interacting with each other, just the 3 players, their energy was, off the charts. PJ Mustipher apparently had a huge dinner after passing that conditioning test. I think it was at St. Elmo's downtown in Indianapolis.
A steak, 2 lobster tails, a pound of mashed potatoes, says James Franklin, and a dessert. So.
Huge return, quite literally, because he's a very big guy. He'll come right into that defensive line and really shake things up, just as he was doing at the start of last season. I really don't have any concerns there other than his health. And if he follows through on that, that could be one of the top defensive linemen taken in next year's NFL draft. As for Jair Brown, really just a locked-in mindset. We've seen that since the spring. He tied for most interceptions in the country last season. I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again, just based on his mentality alone. Sean Clifford, he's just, he just seems different.
He does. He does. I noticed that too. I don't think we said that a whole lot last year. Keep saying it. It's his year. It's his year. I'm not saying it's his year, but he's got a good energy to him. Like, he really does feel confident. And when you ask him about Mike Yurcich being back for the second year, you can tell that's impacted him. Like, it's definitely a thing. Like, he feels good in this offense.
Yeah, he also doesn't necessarily have like some big goal he's planned out for the future. I asked him, is the plan still to go to the NFL? Because we know he has business ventures already at the same time as his college playing days. He's saying, I mean, I play football, so I guess it's kind of my goal, but I don't necessarily have a main career goal right now. He's kind of just taking it one day at a time, and I think that's what's going to be best for Sean Clifford moving forward, and I think it should benefit Penn State football as a whole.
Yeah, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the reports that came out earlier this week, a week ago, about Sean Clifford and potentially unionizing college athletes. That wasn't what happened. He's just been in conversation with James Franklin, Pat Kraft, and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren he's asking questions about what college athletes can do to get money, to represent themselves the right way in this world that's shifting a lot. And James Franklin continually said just how much he's proud of him. You know, he didn't want to elaborate on details, but they're having these conversations, which, before you blow it out of proportion, I think it's a good thing that, you know, he's asking the question. PJ Mustipher said he's totally locked in on football. Sean Clifford's totally locked in on football, but he's doing the right things off the field to make sure that he's kind of being a trailblazer for college athletes. And I don't think it's as much of a distraction as people are going to make it out to be, because it's not unionizing. He's just trying to learn like what's going on, because we'd like to know too.
He's just talking about things that haven't been talked about before. That was the bottom line. Sean did not really talk about it. James did not really talk about it. They did not go into detail by any means. All that was said was, you know, we're having conversations that have not been talked about before. And that's a good thing. If you're a college football fan, if you're a sports fan in general, it is a good thing that these conversations are happening, because it'll only make the college athletic scene that much stronger.
Yeah, that's it for us. There was so much that went on today. I mean, we've really only scratched the surface, but a lot of good stuff from a big Penn State contingent here at Big Ten Media Days. Make sure you keep following along with me and Seth and the rest of our Collegian football staff on Twitter at PSU Footblog, and our podcast account at 1&0 Pod, and online at collegian.psu.edu. Peace.